Hi everyone, Shun here again. With the third season of Boku no Hero Academia having ended not too long ago and the coming of the fourth season next month, I thought I'd make a video about quirks in the series Boku no Hero Academia. To keep in spirit of the anime series, I'll only be touching on the quirks debuted so far in the anime. That being the case, no quirks that have so far appeared in the manga will be mentioned. And as the title of this video suggests, I'll only be going over the most powerful of quirks. To elaborate on that, when I mean the most powerful, I am talking mainly about sheer power, strength, and the level of destructive potential. So for example, quirks that are really useful and have a lot of utility such as brainwashing, airwalk, or warp gate have many uses, but they don't necessarily cause any damage in combat. I'm also not taking into account the level of knowledge and skills of the quirk users, but instead only focusing on the quirks themselves. That being said, let's start off with the first one. At number 10, Dark Shadow, used by Fumikage Tokuyami. As the name implies, the quirk grants him a literal dark shadow that he can materialize from his body at will. It is a solid entity made of darkness energy, and is strongest when there is little to no light around, and weakest the more light is present. Despite the lack of attention the user of this quirk might get, this quirk is actually a very powerful quirk, capable of responding to almost any situation. It offers many options in all categories, whether it be offense, defense, or mobility. Its initial weakness was that it left the user vulnerable when attacking, but this was overcome through the development of the super move Black Ankh, in which Tokuyami wears Dark Shadow onto himself like a suit. It is similar usage to Deku's One for All Full Cowl in that both envelop themselves in their quirks' energy, resulting in power distributed to their entire body. This makes Dark Shadow a very adaptable and strong quirk. Number 9, Muscle Augmentation, used by the villain Muscular. The quirk does, as the name implies, augment the user's muscles to the point that they are exposed outside of the skin. The enhanced muscle fibers provide its user immense strength and faster speed. Although the quirk itself appears as though it might be damaging to the body since the muscle fibers are literally protruding from the skin, there doesn't seem to be any downsides to it so far. The muscle fibers also serve as a form of protection to take on attacks and makes for a very good defensive armor, as well as granting its user immense offensive capabilities. Number 8, Decay, a quirk wielded by Tomura Shigaraki, the leader of the League of Villains and a protege of All for One. This quirk isn't necessarily powerful, but all the same very lethal, so I still decided to include it in this video. Decay, as the name implies, lets Tomura decay anything he touches, whether it be organic or inorganic. The decaying occurs when all 5 of his fingers touch his target, and will always happen involuntarily whether he wants it to or not, as long as the condition is met. It requires the user to always be in close quarters in a fight, making any ranged battles difficult for the user of this quirk. Even still, the effects are very much deadly, as it can kill most people if not careful enough. Number 7, Gigantafication, used by Mount Lady. This quirk allows its user to increase her size to that of a giant. Specifically, she can grow up to 2062 centimeters tall from a normal height of 162 centimeters. As a result of the size increase, her mass also increases, giving her proportionally more strength to overpower most enemies. The drawback to this power is that she cannot assume any size between her normal and maximum ones. In addition, her enormous size is less effective in close spaces, making fights during crimes in narrow alleyways or small streets more difficult to get involved in without heavy property damages. Number 6, Whirlwind. This quirk is wielded by Inasa Yorashi, who is a first-year student at Shiketsu High School, and the top-scoring recommended student for UA High School, before declining the acceptance. As the name suggests, it allows him to control the air around him and create strong gusts of wind. By manipulating the wind, he is able to achieve a level of flight through the utilization of his costume. This quirk excels in both offense and defense, as it is able to use those powerful gusts of wind to blow enemies away, while also being able to block projectiles as well as provide them speed to dodge attacks. As shown by Inasa's use of his quirk, the user can manipulate air with a high level of delicacy and precision, as demonstrated when he was saving civilians from being hit by falling debris. I would say this makes this quirk one of the more overall strongest ones so far. Number 5, the quirk Explosion, held by Katsuki Bakugo. The quirk is one of the few that has an extremely wide range of applications in addition to its firepower and destructiveness. Explosion allows Bakugo to sweat a substance similar to nitroglycerine, which he can ignite to create explosions which he uses to blow away his enemies and cause massive destruction to anything around him. In addition to its destructiveness, he can use the recoil from the blast to propel himself and move through the air at high speeds. With both maneuverability and power, these factors make it one of the most versatile yet damaging of quirks. At number 4, Hellflame, a quirk used by the top pro hero Endeavor. As the name would suggest, the quirk gives its user control over fire as well as the generation of it. It's a very basic yet powerful quirk, one you can find in many superhero stories. It might be debatable to say that it's not that original, but hey, it's just that simple of a power. The temperatures of his flames are said to be able to go into extremely dangerous levels, capable of incinerating most threats. But Endeavor can adjust the flames to lower temperatures for weaker enemies, and to lessen the strain on his body. This quirk is most likely the strongest fire-based quirk thus far. I don't have enough information on Dabi's quirk Cremation, which could possibly be stronger, but since Endeavor is a top-ranking hero, we can only assume for now that his quirk is stronger than Dabi's, making it one of the strongest quirks out there. Number 3, Half Cold, Half Hot, used by Shoto Todoroki, is a combination of two quirks, one from his father's Hellflame quirk and the other from his mother's Ice quirk. This quirk allows him to generate ice on his right side of his body and fire on his left side. Although at this point in the series his flames are nowhere near as powerful as Endeavor's, this quirk seems to have one of the highest potentials in the entire series thus far, only limited by the skill of the user. Since Todoroki is still very young with not too much experience, there's no telling how far his powers will grow later on. His left side can possibly become just as powerful as Endeavor's in the future, in addition to having an entire separate ice power that is just as powerful in level. Even as of now, having both fire and ice generation at his disposal, he has a diverse range of attacks, even being able to use a combination of both simultaneously to overwhelm his opponents. The only weakness in his quirk is prolonged usage of either side that brings his body's temperature to dangerous levels, and drops the effectiveness of his attacks. Using his right side too much causes ice to form on his body and slows him down, whereas overuse of his left side causes him to overheat and induce dizziness, which could render him unconscious like Endeavor's quirk. Despite this drawback, he can counteract this weakness by regulating his body's temperature between hot and cold, by using one or both sides to counteract the effects of the other constantly, depending on which side he is using more. It is more than likely that he will have mastered this in the future as well. Number 2, All for One, used by the villain of the same name. It is one of the most, if not the most powerful quirk thus far. This much is obvious since All for One pretty much lets you steal any quirk you want from other people. I had initially put All for One at the very top of the list, but after much consideration, I made the change in determining which is stronger. Yes, All for One is pretty much a broken quirk, letting you pretty much do anything by letting the user use any quirk simultaneously. But proven time and again in two major battles between the users of the quirks One for All and All for One for All beats All for One. In their first major battle between All Might and All for One, it was said that All for One was beaten, but at the cost of severe permanent injuries for All Might, reducing his usage of his quirk from then on. This injury was not as severe as the ones All for One received, as evidenced from his face being extremely disfigured. As far as the second battle, well, it was too amazing to not know what happened, let's just say that. The quirk's potential is pretty much infinite, only limited by the number of quirk users available for All for One to steal from. From what we've seen, we can assume that the capacity for this quirk is almost endless. There are a few limitations in All for One that One for All overcomes. The first is the fact that the quirks that are stolen are as strong as the person that wields it. Therefore, if a quirk requires a certain amount of mastery and specific skill or creativity, then it would not be too useful. Because of this, it is better for users of All for One to steal quirks that are easier to use and require little to no experience. Due to this limitation, it is most likely that the individual quirks usually gathered by All for One to keep himself do not grow and evolve in power as much as the higher skill ceiling ones. To compensate, All for One can instead combine them by using multiple quirks simultaneously to create devastating attacks. One example would be Air Cannon, which is a combination of the base quirk Air Cannon, buffed heavily with spring-like limbs, 4x Kinetic Booster, and 3x Strength Enhancer, which results in a devastatingly powerful range attack. As demonstrated by that move, he can have copies of the same quirk effectively multiplying his strength. This could suggest that the quirk's user would most likely prioritize quantity over quality by having as much viable varieties of options and combinations in his arsenal as possible. Other than those very minor flaws in practice, All for One just about beats any other quirk out there just because it can just take it for itself. But even so, there is only one quirk that does beat it, and the one I think is the most powerful quirk in the entire series. And finally at number 1, One for All. Of course, the most powerful quirk of all has to be none other than this one, a quirk that is used by a total of 9 users, with known torchbearers, the first one originating from All for One's brother, the 7th successor Nana Shimura, the 8th successor Toshinori Yagi or All Might, and the current 9th successor Izuku Midoriya. It is a quirk that originated from All for One itself, that allows one to stockpile power and also transfer itself to someone else. You might not think it would be better than All for One seeing as how broken it is, and that One for All actually came from All for One, but I would say otherwise. Because of its properties, the potential is almost limitless as the quirk can only become stronger with each and every successor. This quirk seems to be that of pure power that is so far shown to manifest into immense physical strength. But I would say that it might extend beyond that, like using quirk abilities from previous holders. From just 8th generation, All Might was able to defeat All for One multiple times, though with repercussions. There is no doubt that the 9th holder of One for All and beyond will have even greater potential. Another reason is that One for All is the only quirk that is able to stand against All for One at all. This is because due to the fact that one of the powers of One for All is it has to be passed down, making it the only quirk that cannot be stolen by All for One, whereas any other quirk user that attempts to battle All for One can have their quirk stolen. Another maybe sappy but poetic reason I would like to think is that All for One is fighting for himself and by himself, while users of One for All are fighting collectively as one and for everyone. A quirk for all people for a common purpose. Just from everything the quirk represents makes this quirk the most beautiful, not from its outward displays of strength and power, but rather by the meaning it holds. That concludes what I think are the most powerful quirks in My Hero Academia so far. Now, how powerful a quirk isn't everything. Although these quirks excel in strength, they usually lack in usefulness and adaptability, whereas other quirks like Erasure or Creation can be used in many more scenarios. That being said, as far as pure destructive power, these seem to be the quirks that can do the most damage. Did you agree or disagree with this list of quirks, or were there other quirks you think deserve to be considered the most powerful? Leave a comment below. Unless you're reading ahead in the manga, then I would like to ask that you refrain from mentioning anything ahead for everyone else who haven't caught up in the story yet. With the coming of the internship arc in season 4, there may be other quirks that may be even more powerful. We'll just have to wait and see. Unless again, if you're reading the manga, then well, you already know. As a quick reminder for everyone, the first episode of the new 4th season of My Hero Academia will start airing on October 12th. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.